Up first, we have Garret Strehl, new to the channel, up-and-coming young local player, popping off a lot of honor scores recently. He's going to be comparing to the Game Breaker 5 and Track Theorem.
The ball seems very, it hooks, sets, but it's also very forward. It seems very controllable. The blades are a little dry right now, so they were flying a little bit, but overall it seems really good right now.
Okay, perfect.
So now I'm going to compare it to the GB5, and the GB5 is my benchmark ball right now in my bag, so I've been hearing a lot of talk about the Ion Pro is the new benchmark ball. It's supposed to be the best, so I'm gonna try it out. So I just got done throwing the Game Breaker 5, and the Game Breaker 5 is definitely a lot smoother and earlier than the Ion Pro. Pretty much exactly what I thought the Ion Pro would be. It's a little bit more off the spot than the GB5. It's still both very controllable, both smooth. So now I'm going to compare it to my Track Theorem, and the Theorem should be a lot cleaner through the fronts, and it should have a little more pop on the back. We'll see what it does. Yeah, so I just got done throwing the Track Theorem, and it was definitely a lot smoother than I was expecting compared to the Ion Pro. The Ion's definitely a little bit more off the spot and continuous, where the Theorem is just really smooth. So I just got done throwing all three balls, and I would say the Ion Pro is pretty nuts. It's definitely more than what I was expecting. It's a little more than the Theorem. It's a little less than the Game Breaker 5, just because the Game Breaker 5 is really early and smooth, in my opinion, but the Ion Pro is pretty good.
Up next, we have Virginia Young, a very talented female player, had some success at USBC Open Championships this year, as well as many local titles. She's going to be comparing to the Zen and Reality. Let's see what she thinks.
Initial impression was I wanted to knock some of the shine off the ball. It's not a super shiny ball, but for me, I was just seeing it go a little too far down lane before it was kind of gripping for how I play the lanes. And again, this lane was freshly oiled, so a lot of that was just figuring out where the shot was to start. But that was my initial impression, was I felt I wanted to just knock some of the shine off. But I stuck to it, and I just made very small moves on the approach and just softened my hand up a little bit, and then the ball started reading pretty much where I wanted it to, and I was glad I didn't go with that initial gut reaction after 2 shots. So I'm not sure if it's a ball I would start off with initially, but it's definitely a ball I want to keep in my bag in case, like that first ball I have, maybe it's just reading too early. I think it's a good benchmark ball. I agree with everything Storm wrote about it. At this point in time, I haven't thrown it that much, but from what I've seen, I think it's going to be a pretty good benchmark ball for me to at least get an idea of how the lanes are playing. So with my initial thoughts of it maybe needing a little bit more cover, I honestly wanted to throw my reality against it. That's the ball I typically start with. It looks good on fresh for me, just to see if that was right or if it's just me getting to know the new ball and just being on a pair that was super fresh. So I think we're going to go ahead and grab the reality and see what that looks like. So it did change what I was thinking about the ion. I'm glad I didn't hit it with any surface because I started in the same spot with my reality and it just wasn't picking up the way I thought it was going to and the way it had on the pair I warmed up on. So it may have just been this lane, but in this particular case, I think the ion matched up better for where I like to play the lanes than the reality did. And so if I were to be playing league here in a tournament and saw both shapes, I would be putting the reality back in my bag and probably starting with the ion if those were the 2 choices I had. So something I'm wondering is something I saw with both the ion and the reality is my miss is typically a little bit more right. And when I would miss right with both of them, they didn't quite recover. So I'm wondering if maybe something a little shinier, like the Zen, might actually give me a little bit more miss room right to see if maybe it's just ball, the cover that's really what's missing on this particular lane. So let's go ahead and give that a shot. The Zen on this lane, at least, it gave me a little bit more room. I didn't have to be as speed conscious, which for me is a bonus in my game. And I love the Zen. I know this isn't a video about the Zen, but Zen ball good. But what I would say is compared to the ion, the Zen did give me a little bit more miss room right. If I missed right, it came up and at least got to the pocket. I'm better at buckets than washouts. So if I saw that, I would probably be starting in the Zen. I think if there was a little more oil in the fronts and a little bit more friction down lane, then the ion would be the go-to ball for right now. But with just what we're bowling on and how this lane is playing, I don't think the ion would be the ball I would start with. Not to say it's a bad ball. I still see it coming in handy in many different places and conditions. But in this particular circumstance and what we just did today comparatively, I would start with the Zen, and then I'd probably bring out the ion to be perfectly, because it's not going to overhook down lane, I'd probably go Zen, then ion. So now that I've thrown the ion, I've been able to compare it to my reality, which is my current go-to benchmark ball, and my Zen, which is my what I like to call come to Jesus ball when nothing else is working. I would give the ion a rating of fire. Now that may seem weird compared to what I've just been saying, but I think just a little alteration of the surface and that ball's going to be exactly what I need to fit in my bag. It was going through the pins really well when I threw it where I needed to. I just wasn't on my game 100% today, which is why I would probably go with a ball like the Zen where I didn't have to be 100% perfect. But I think with tweaking the surface a little bit, that ball's definitely going to be fire, and I see myself throwing it, this coming winter in the leagues we have coming up.
We hope you found this video useful. As always, if you like videos like this, make sure you hit subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.